Welcome back, everyone. Another great episode of Turnaround Coach, helping you transform your organization and take it to the next level. Before we get started, we are in the second week of October. I'm actually recording on the same day I release this, October 16th. And we have just about, 10 or 11 weeks to go until the end of 2023. I feel like I was just sitting here not too long ago, literally writing out my goals for 2023, determining my word that I was going to focus on for this year, which, by the way, I don't know if I've ever shared that with you, but it's the word elevate. I wanted to go into 2023 elevating everything about my world, personally, professionally, my business, everything. And I think I have definitely accomplished that goal. Have I met every single goal this year? Not quite yet. Will I meet all of them? It's hard to say, but I do know that I definitely focus on celebrating those wins along the way. And I learn from the things that didn't quite go the way I had them planned. That, I believe, in and of itself, is how we elevate ourselves to the next level. Well, you might not be working on any personal goals right now. I hope you are, because I hope you're not just focused on the strength and growth of your business, but of you as the business owner as well. However, we're here today to talk about one more great strategy that you can definitely use and put into place today. I'm going to give you some actionable steps so that you can continue on this journey of transformation and make your organization the best it can be. Because like I always say, we didn't start this journey to just be okay. I know we've seen those sayings, I'm the okayest, blah, blah, blah. But truly, nobody wants to be okay. Nobody wants to be mediocre. We all want to be great. We all want to be known as the authority in our line of work. And in order to do so, sometimes we have to elevate. But let's talk about this transformation strategy. This week, I want to focus on the fact that sometimes when you are making big change in your organization, you're working on your climate and culture, which has been a theme that we've been focusing on for the last few weeks. You may have to decide that it's time to cut ties with some people. Last week, we talked about how it's important that when you make change, everybody makes the change, right? That you break the organizational norms that are not working to help you move forward. That's a hard process, especially for people that are too comfortable with the comfortable, too comfortable with the mediocre, and they're not willing to make the change. Or, and I've seen this happen as well, I've actually experienced this in my own line of work. Sometimes you just have those people that just want to be a problem. Maybe they have some personal things going on, because I think there's always an underlying reason why somebody might be lashing out. But for whatever reason it is, it's causing detriment to your organization. So let's talk about this a little bit. When I came into the 3 schools that I went into to do the initial turnarounds, I was not the principal the previous year. I did not hire all of the people. Now, of course, when there's change in leadership, there's always going to be change in staff, right? People are accustomed to doing things a certain way, whether they're good or bad, they're accustomed to it. And change can be a little scary. So people just out of their own human nature decide that they need to maybe possibly move on when the leader moves on. However, so many people may feel, oh, change is coming. This person is supposed to come in here and make things better. I'm going to stay on board and see what happens. I'm going to give it a year. I've heard that before. I'm going to give it a few months. Let's see what happens. And sometimes, most times, you inherit staff that maybe you didn't hire, you didn't choose. Now, this is not always a bad thing. I have had some fantastic people that somebody else hired. I inherited them, and they've done and helped me do some great work. And I've had the opposite. And even if I think about the years that I had to do some transformation when I was the continuing principal, the leader, the year of Harvey, the year after the pandemic, where we had to make some big changes, I was the principal ahead of time. I hired the people, but there were still some people that maybe these new changes just didn't fit. It's a hard thing. It's hard because you're dealing with people's lives, right? You're dealing with their professional work, their money, their self-esteem, their family. Employees are challenging. They're hard. But what makes it more challenging is when you are hesitant. You know in your gut that something's not right, but you're hesitant to move forward. Now, let me give you a couple of examples when this has worked for me and when that has not worked for me. When I come in brand new to an organization, I'm going to want to give people the benefit of the doubt. I always think, and this is my personal opinion, the leader directs the organization. The leader and how they do things forms how the organization does things. I truly believe that about leadership, that it's an awesome responsibility because it's big. And because of whether you put these systems or have procedures or don't have procedures, or develop a great climate and culture or don't work on your climate and culture, whatever it is, ultimately it's the leader's responsibility to take care of that. I also believe that a good staff is going to follow their leader. I believe that even when they feel like that might not push the needle, that might not get us where we need to go, you are my leader, I'm still loyal to you. I'm still going to work for you. I'm still going to do my best for you. I think that's a good culture. So when I come into an organization new, I want to give the staff the benefit of the doubt. I want to believe that they're doing one of those two things, that the leader gave them the directives, the work to be done, and they're loyal and they followed the leader's lead. So I don't necessarily come in the first year and do what we call the chopping block, right? Now, have there been times where we've had to? Absolutely, because of special circumstances. Is that the norm? No, not usually. When I start to work, the most important thing I feel we need to do is to connect with people. We need to learn people. We need to find out what drives them. We need to find out why they're there. We need to find out their skill set. You can do that. And we've talked about that right here on this weekly YouTube. And I talk about it in the work I do. If you connect with me, we can talk about it. But I think that that's one of the most important things that you have to know. You have to know what drives your customers, your clients, and your employees. So important. And you need to learn that as quickly as you can. Will you learn everything? Every little detail? No, because learning is a continuous journey. However, the more you learn, the quicker you can, the better your organization is going to be, because here's what you might discover. You might discover that, yes, the organization was struggling or needs to make change because people didn't know what they were doing. You might also learn that the organization needs to make change because there are people out there who are sabotaging the mission and vision of that organization. That maybe the leader had some things in place that were working, but these people are continually infecting the environment, the climate, the culture, the work ethic, the skill set by not being on board. Again, I don't think anybody wakes up in the morning saying, who can I make miserable today? I think there are other underlying situations going on, but as the leader of the organization, and if you're making a transformation, you have to understand you cannot fix everything. And if you stay focused on the high ticket items that are going to make the biggest change, getting rid of a negative employee, getting rid of somebody that's going against everything that you stand for, that your work stands for, that your organization stands for, and that's infecting other people, because negative spreads. It spreads quickly. We have to know when to cut those ties. All right, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, especially if you've been doing this a little while. And if you're in a transformation, chances are you've been there and you've seen this brewing, right? You've seen it growing. So how do we get it done? Well, again, I think the very first thing that you have to do is you have to really dig deep into the data, the information. You may need to sit down at some point, and this is something I definitely could help you with, but you may need to sit down and list out your employees. You may need to categorize them. One year I needed to work on some change. We had a new test that had come out. We didn't see the results we wanted to. We didn't get hit with accountability that year because of the way the state did the work, but we knew that the following year it was coming back and we had to make that change quick. I categorized my teachers, all of my staff, my paraprofessionals, my teachers, my specialists, everybody, even my assistant principal, even myself, into the categories where these are my superstars, these are my rising stars, these are my falling stars. And then I had to figure out what each category of people needed from me. I had to figure out if there were anomalies in each category, why, and then what was my plan going to be. Now, just like we know that sometimes negative spreads faster than positive, we also know that a falling star, a failing employee is going to take more of our time. We have to determine if that time is worth it. I was in a place one year after my divorce that I struggled. I struggled to come to work. I struggled to be on when I was at work. I struggled in my personal life. Everything was a struggle. I had a tough year. If my supervisor would have said, you're done because of that struggle, I don't know where I would be right now. She didn't. She knew I was struggling. She helped me get through the struggle so that I could get myself back on track and be the best principal that I could be. You have to know that about your employees. Is this just something temporary? Do I need to give some support? Or is there history here? And if there is history, what have you done so far? Has it worked? And if it hasn't, have you given enough? And do we need to have a different kind of conversation? So the first thing you definitely need to do is you have to know your employees. You have to really look at the objective data, not your feeling about them. Dig out that data, categorize them, really know what you're working with. Now, of course, if you're a small business, you may have 1 or 2 employees. That's going to be simple. I went into my first school with 950 students. So I had about 85 employees. That was a harder situation because it was more. I work with small businesses, but if you happen to be catching this and you're a larger business, you may have even more than that. Utilize your teams. Utilize your trusted people to help you gather this information, because that is the most crucial first step. Then you need to have a plan. If you're deciding that you want to keep working on somebody, okay, great. Have a plan. Communicate the plan. Most importantly, communicate it with that employee, right? They need to know. They need to know what your expectation is. You can do that in a kind way. It doesn't have to be harsh. Something like, Sherry, I've been, really paying attention to the things that are going on. You know me, I'm all about data. I'm all about looking at history, patterns. And here's what I found this year when I was doing my goal setting, when I was getting ready for the upcoming year, school year, etc. I noticed that every year we seem to start strong. And as we get a couple months in, I start to have parent complaints. 2 years ago, you had 10. Last year, you had 12. This year, we're already at 7. I noticed that your team, when you're working together in your grade level meetings, they're not talking with you as much, and you're not interacting with them. I noticed that you've been turning your lesson plans in late. And I've even noticed that when the day is done at 3:30, you're walking out. You're walking out, and not always are things getting done. So here's what I want to do, because I know you're a good teacher. I want to see you be your best. And clearly right now, I think we can both agree that maybe if these things are happening, you're not working at your highest potential. Is that something that we could agree on? Now, again, you have shown me prior to this that you can do this work, that you can do a great job, and people value you. I want to see you get back to that place. So I have come up with a plan, but before I share my plan with you, I want to know, is this something that you think we can move forward and we can get you back on track? If they say no, then that might be where you change the conversation. If they say yes, you might even find that they may open up to you and tell you, I am having a hard time, and I need to be honest with you. Since my divorce, my ex-husband and I have been dealing with a custody battle, and I know it's affecting me at work. I know that part of what I need to do is maybe leave my personal at home so that I can be focused when I'm here at school. And chances are, when you show them the plan, they're going to be completely on board. Now, if that conversation does go in that other direction and they're like, well, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think I have a problem. I'm not the only one who I've seen leaving at the end of the day without their things to go home. And I know not everybody is turning their lesson plans in on time. The first thing I would say is, okay, I understand your feelings. I understand that right now you might be feeling like I'm targeting you a little bit, but I do want to be honest. This conversation right now with you and me is right here in this room. It's just you and me. And we're only talking about you and me. I'm not talking about anybody else in the building. We're not discussing their work ethic, what they're getting taken care of. We're talking about yours. Just like I would not talk about you with anybody else. Now, again, this is the data I have. You can see that this can be concerning. I'm spending a lot of time in these areas. And if you're feeling like maybe we're not on the same page, I'm concerned that maybe you may not be committed to a plan to improve. So you kind of get the gist of what I'm talking about. These are kind conversations. They're direct. They're clear. They may not be receiving it on the other end the way you want them to at the moment, but chances are they know it's going on. And if you keep going back to that data, if you have that data and you keep going back to it, then it takes the personal out. So I think that is key number one. Number two, I do think this is going to be, a bit of a challenge for you, especially if you have a larger number of employees or a lot going on, or maybe a lot on your own plate. You're a small business and you wear many hats, right? But you have to stay focused on monitoring progress of whatever plan you're putting in place. So if you have a plan to get rid of the person, you need to stay on top of it. And if you have a plan to improve the person, you need to stay on top of it. I am guilty of this. I would have some of the most fabulous plans in place, but I would sometimes have, especially in my earlier years, my more rookie type of years, staying on top of the progress of the plan. If you don't, it's like the plan didn't even matter. It wasn't important enough. Because again, you're the leader and you set the tone, you set the stage for everything that happens in the organization. So once you know your employees, you have that data and you know in which direction you're going to go, and you make a plan, you need to stay on top of that plan. And here's the thing that I think is the final piece I want to share with you today is you need to make sure that your communication is consistent without being targeted. Let me explain to you what I mean. If you put somebody on a plan and you really do believe that you want them to grow, every step in that direction, you need to praise them. You need to give them feedback. You need to motivate them. You need to let them know you notice it. However, if you have somebody on a plan to exit, to go on out. Now, I know teaching's a little different because we run on contracts and we have other requirements. Some employees are at will and you might be able to relieve them quickly. But I still believe you should give them an opportunity to improve, right? Before you just do that. But if you're getting rid of somebody and you have that plan, please be sure that you keep your communication as professional with them as possible, that they can never come back and say, you didn't like me, you put me on a plan, I was trying, but you always just found something wrong with me. I'm going to give you an example. My second school that I took over, I was there 2 years and I was working with 2 different assistant principals. And, there were just some things we had to work on. One of the things was how they were communicating with teachers. And what I would hear from some of my more struggling teachers or my more rookie teachers, ones that you couldn't just let them go and let them be automatic, they needed more support. I would get reports that they never find anything good that I'm doing. They always find something wrong. We would have conversations together. You never tell me what I'm doing right. I know that that can be challenging when you're trying to get rid of someone, especially if they're struggling. But are you being objective enough, especially if you're in a situation like teachers are, where you do have that contract, you have to commit to offering them a plan to improve? Are you being fair? Are you being objective enough if you never find something they're doing well? Now, if the data shows that they're never doing anything well, that's a different story. But I still believe that you need to try to find something, just a little something, to help keep them going if they are doing something well. However, I want to also caution you, don't go overboard. If you have somebody on a plan that you're getting rid of them, don't go and tell them how great they're doing on everything that they do. Here's how I might handle it. Sherry, I noticed that, since we put the plan in place, I have seen a little bit of spark in what you've been doing. I noticed that you have been committing to having conversations with your colleagues while you were in the planning sessions. I really appreciate you doing that. Now, of course, we have a long way to go. I want to be very clear with you about that. I want to see more. That's not you typically, and I know you can do better. But I have noticed that you've been doing that. So maybe since that's starting to come in place, maybe now you can take one more thing that you might want to have an opportunity to work on. Here's what that does, guys. When they are removed, if they come back and say, they just wanted to get rid of me, you have data, you have documentation, you have conversations where you had said, look, I saw you making some improvement and I want to continue to see that. What would be our next area we might want to work on? They can't come back and say, I'm being targeted. I was already done for once she decided that she wanted me gone. I've seen this happen. I've heard people say this. And that's why I caution you. This is a challenging piece of a transformation. Knowing when you need to cut ties and then doing it in a way that makes sense. Or knowing that someone is struggling and giving them an opportunity to get themselves back on track. Nobody can decide that but you as the leader. Using data, patterns, understanding your people is the first step in the right direction. Really sitting down and having clear conversations, making sure they know and giving them a action plan would be your next way. And then knowing that you need to keep that professional communication, you need to try to find wins that you highlight. You need to keep your communication consistent. Don't tell somebody who's about to be let go, they're doing a great job. It's difficult. That makes this path even more difficult. And I promise you, if you use these strategies and tips, your transformation will go a whole lot smoother. Now, y'all, I have to tell you, we are, as I mentioned, getting ready to wrap up this year. I still have a few spots open in my programming to help some businesses. I'm working with one to try to wrap up this week. So that means I have one more for the month of October. And I have 2 slots for November and 2 slots for December. They're going to fill up fast. If you know you need to make a change in your organization, your small business, your school, whatever it is, and you know you want to get that change started sooner rather than later, because change does take a little time. And the quicker we get going and the quicker we help you improve, the better. So if you know you are on that path and you want somebody who's been there, who's had the experience and can come in with fresh eyes to help you really dig deep and really make a plan that will help you scale your organization to the next level, or even just stop it from failing, I'm your girl. So I want you to make sure that you send me a message, reach out to me. You can find me on social media, Sherry Dixon Consulting, at both Instagram and Facebook. I am on LinkedIn as well. It's kind of a new platform for me, but you can find me there. I would love to hear from you. I really would, because I know working together, we can not only develop your skills as a turnaround, but also get your organization right where it was meant to be, because nobody starts this journey to just be mediocre. All right. I will see you next week right back here on Turnaround Coach. And in the meantime, have a great week. Set your intentions for your Monday and go forth and conquer.